There are a couple things pythons and anacondas have in common. First, they're both non-venomous snakes that kill their prey by constriction. Why use venom when you could just take them down by giving them a hug? A breath-restricting hug. Also, they are top predators whose presence spells doom for prey, and you never underestimate their ruthlessness. Of course, the wild is no respecter of person or animal, and some animals have made the mistake of testing the anaconda or python. 30. Python vs. leopard. Curiosity, they say, kills the cat, but who knew the same rang true for the big cats? This leopard found a python and decided to take him on. The leopard expected it to be a cakewalk. After all, the snake isn't venomous. But the leopard almost lost his life betting on such fact as the python almost had it in a chokehold. They both took turns sinking teeth and fangs into each other. Luckily, it managed to survive the encounter. Instead of running, the leopard stood and was maybe taunting the python even more. Run for your life, you silly cat! 29. King cobra vs. python. The king cobra could be seen as royalty in some quarters, but in these swamps, the python rules. This is a messy battle of the slitheries. They battle each other, hammer and thorn in life or death battle. From the looks of it, the king cobra has been outdone by the python's superior size, so it has to come up with a plan. The python may be longer and stronger, but the king cobra was smart and had an ingenious idea. Each time the python bit and tried to swallow it, it clung to the python's body. Obviously, there's no way the python was going to swallow himself. Eventually, the python discovered that this was one tough nut to crack and decided to let it go. 28. Crocodile vs. anaconda. Crocs and anacondas are eternal enemies, and from time to time, they engage in fierce survival battles. Or it could be a fight for dominance over territory in this epic matchup between this giant-sized croc and not-so-big python. But this is one tough python that wouldn't let the croc win so easily. So it bit and wouldn't let go of the croc's upper lip, that's even if they have lips. The croc managed to shake it off and retaliated by giving the python a taste of its own medicine. We're glad they were able to settle their differences and call a truce. 27. Jaguar vs. anaconda. Jaguars are notorious for feeding on all the animals in their terrain, but this time he's got his match in the form of a fellow apex predator. However, it turns out to be a very lopsided fight, with the jaguar clearly having the upper hand and the anaconda having little to offer in self-defense. Luckily, the anaconda was able to retreat into safety of the river, saving us the pain of watching an anaconda get mauled by a jaguar. 26. Python, jackal, and honey badger. In what could easily be a three-way lightweight world championship bout in WWE if they hosted competitions for animals. This honey badger was in a really bad spot before his unlikeliest of tag team partners came to the rescue. Even a fierce adversary like the honey badger couldn't break free from the stranglehold of the python. Kinda says a lot about the strength of the python if you ask me. While the jackal did about enough to distract the python, the honey badger managed to wiggle free from its oppressor. And you know what comes next after you let a honey badger escape after such an experience. Vengeance! The bout goes from tag team to every man for himself, and the python was the prize. If that python ever makes it out alive, I think he's going to think twice before going after a honey badger. 25. Python vs. tiger. In monochromatic scenes, an unlikely duel takes place involving a tiger and a python. Ordinarily, you'd imagine a tiger making light work over a creature like a python, but things didn't play out the way anyone would ever have imagined. They both go at each other, head on, with no one ready to succumb to another. The python was wary of the tiger's sharp teeth and claws, while the tiger watched out for any chokehold moves. Before long, they both fall into each other's traps, and then it becomes a struggle to break free from the other's hold. However, the tiger came off worse and found itself stuck within the python hold as its breath started to become faint. But the tiger refused to tap out, and there were no ropes to hold on to. So it fought as best it could, and we hope it escapes. 24. Python takes on lion. This lion tells the python to grant him permission to hunt on its turf, but the python angrily tells it to back up and look elsewhere for its meal. There's no way the lion was going to breach the treaty they had. The lions wouldn't let go so easily and almost paid with its life. Next time, it'll know better than to enter into enemy territory. 23. Leopard attacks python. Sometimes a python could be enjoying the sweet jungle sun, minding its business and not in the mood for any confrontation. However, the wild is an unpredictable place with loads of unpleasant surprises, and this time it was a leopard that wanted more than just a drink by the stream. The python tried the hardest to ignore the leopard, hoping it would let it be free. But the temptation of drinking cool stream water after chowing down on a long, tasty python was too strong to resist. So he swipes the python and grabs it by its head. Obviously, the python was in no mood to fight. Not wanting to fight back isn't the same as dying on a day you're supposed to be chilling. Therefore, the python decided not to die, but live and spend the rest of the day beneath the water. So long, Mr. Salivating Leopard. 22. Indigo snake attacks young python. Being a python hatchling is harder than it might seem on the outside. Before they grow to become killing machines, they've had to survive infancy, filled with incessant predation. The young python is about to find out why it's such a good idea to always watch your six whenever you're in the wild. As the python was about to enter its apartment in the ground, a large indigo snake that had tailed up to that point swiftly bit at the base of its head. The plan was to do to the python what its parents did to other animals. Luckily, the python is well nourished. Therefore, it had enough strength to put up a good fight, pending the arrival of mama. 21. Domestic cat vs. python. You can count on a domestic cat to take on an animal its bigger cousins have been known to take down for obvious reasons. The kitty cat was fazed by the size and reputation of the python and engaged in a staring contest with the snake. The cat seemed interested and shaking hands and bearing whatever beef they may or may not have, but it couldn't find its paws or hands. After several failed attempts, the cat leaves, feeling the encounter was a bit awkward as it couldn't even get the python's name. 20. Alligator vs. python. What you're about to watch is a matchup set up by Mother Nature herself in South Florida. No, it didn't happen in the Kendall Village Center. It was a battle of the fittest between a 6-foot-long alligator and a python big enough to kill it. Although we can't make out much of the video, it's clear the alligator was in serious trouble. We later saw in the video what the assailant was, a Burmese python. It was reported that both animals spent time slamming each other into the water in a water ballet manner. 19. Python and alligator battle for territory. The Burmese python and alligator's rivalry is one that is never-ending. They usually face off in the battle for supremacy and territory as top predators. They both size each other up before striking in an Olympic wrestling contest, and the fight was on. Blow for blow, they match each other, but not for long. In an unfortunate turn of events, the python found itself between the jaws of the gator, with a force of about 2,000 pounds per square inch clamping down onto it. It certainly looked like the gator had won, but it, for some reason, let the python go. What makes the footage stand out is the fact that the alligator retreated for the python when it could have totally crushed the python some moments earlier. 18. Tiger vs. python. Actions, they say, speak louder than words. With a reputation of being one bad reptile, the python prevented a tiger from using the motor path. However, the python clearly wasn't in the mood to leave the road anytime soon, even with the tiger pacing around. So the tiger decided to approach the massive python. Big mistake. As soon as it moved close and the python hissed, the tiger shook its head and opted for a path through the bushes instead. Wise choice. 17. Leopard fights python. Leopards are undoubtedly fast, and all that speed and agility would be needed when coming up against a python, a swift attacker that can constrict its prey within seconds. I don't know what the fight could be about, but it's certainly a fierce battle between two top predators. The python wasn't too interested in the fight, but the leopard literally wanted a piece of the python. The leopard kept striking the python with its claws, just before its opposite number unleashed its secret killer move that nearly caught the leopard. Luckily, it leapt out just in time to avoid any catastrophic ending. 16. Mother tiger defends her cubs. These cubs were playing around, unaware of the danger that lurked in the buses until one of the young cubs sighted a slithery for in the buses. It immediately alerted their mother, and she was there in no time. The tigress stood her ground and prevented the python from making lunch out of her kids. 15. Box turtle leaves python nest. Not many animals can go as far as visiting a python's nest and making it out alive. But when your shell is as tough as the box turtle's, I guess we can make a few exceptions. This box turtle was seen leaving the nest of a nestling python. The pair seems to have struck a cordial chord, so much so the turtle could just come whenever it feels like, hanging out with the python, and could leave anytime it pleases. But in truth, box turtles have been known to burrow roomies out of most snakes. If only the python could extend this sort of warmth to the alligator or crocodile. Just kidding. 14. Crocodiles vs. Python. Pythons are fearless animals that know how to get what they want. Likewise, the crocodile can be very territorial. So when this python wandered deep into crocodile territory in search of food, it was immediately met by a croc. The duo faced off with the python, landing some ghastly bites on the croc. Luckily for the croc, its skin is strong enough to minimize the damage. The croc reciprocates the gesture by clamping down on the python, but couldn't get enough force into it to cut the python in half because the python had managed to wrap itself around the croc. As with most encounters between these evenly matched foes, it ended in a stalemate. 13. Anaconda attacks cow. There seems to be no limit to what anacondas and pythons can attempt to munch. In this clip, the anaconda attacked the calf and was about to go for the chokehold before it was spotted by the farm owner, who caught the whole thing on tape. Instead of looking for ways to free his precious calf from the fangs of the anaconda, this man was too amazed to do anything than to record this rare moment of an anaconda trying to swallow something as big as an adolescent cow. 12. Pythons vs. bees. Turns out the box turtle isn't the only one that can hang out with the python. Insects as deadly and small as the bees get free passes too. These bees had no issue whatsoever setting up their hive right in a python's nest. Could it be that they knew they were too tiny to be strangled by the python? Or was it simply an ingenious idea by these smart stingers to add an extra layer of protection for their honey? Since no one can get close enough to get any answers from the bees, I suggest we answer those ourselves. 11. Komodo dragon vs. python. We've seen some animals successfully protect their young against the perils of the python, or in some cases the anaconda. However, this tale is unlike what we've seen so far in today's video. Komodo dragons are notorious for their deadly saliva, but much more than that was required by this mother Komodo dragon in a bid to protect her unborn children. Unfortunately, that was all she had to offer in defense of her eggs. In the end, the python got the eggs and the mother ended up being a souvenir. Number 10. TEGU vs. python. Tegus are a family of large lizards found in South America and in some places in North America. These lizards love to eat honey, and some species feed on venomous snakes. Let's just say Mother Nature has set them up nicely to access their food. And sometimes they take their job a little too far. For example, the tegu attempted to attack a python in its nest and hoped to make away with some of its eggs for its breakfast omelets. It must have thought since it could easily take down venomous snakes, it stood a chance against a python. After all, pythons aren't venomous. Or maybe it was hoping to find a beehive. But as expected, the python wasn't going to be having any of it. It may not be venomous, but it can inflict some serious injuries. Number 9. Alligator gets a lucky break. Pythons have a habit of stalking their prey before attacking. They often opt to stalk and attack at later times if they have just finished a satisfying meal. The humongous python was either in a good mood or already had a filled belly when encountering this alligator. Why is that? A python that big will have no issue snacking on the gator, but it seemed more interested in following it around than anything else. The alligator must have heard all about Mr. Python and didn't appreciate the fact that it was being followed by such a monster. So the gator claps its jaws at the python and it finally gets the message. 8. Honey badger attacks python. This fierce and fearless predator is on its way to make a formidable foe. Honey badgers can make a meal of any animal, provided they can sink their teeth into the right places. And they are immune to snake venom, among other superpowers. However, pythons offer a different challenge altogether. The only thing this honey badger has going for it is the fact that the python isn't fully grown yet. The honey badger was way too fast and too deadly for the python, and it emerged victorious, running off with its prize. Number 7. Anaconda vs. CAIMAN. This is the contest between two heavyweight champions of the wild. When the anaconda has its prey in this position, you know it's as good as dead. Also, with such strong teeth and bite force, the caiman can bite through any prey. However, both these animals counter each other's strengths. The anaconda's dense muscles make it hard for the caiman to bite deep, while its size and tough body build make it almost impossible for the anaconda to tighten its grip any further. I wonder how long they'll have to be like this. Number 6. Python vs. Porcupine. Porcupines are more of the nocturnal guys, and when you spot one during the day, you know they're bound for quite an experience. Basically, because of their poor eyesight, this porcupine went out for whatever porcupines do during the day. It was followed by a predator that knows too well about exploiting the weakness of its prey. The python knew about its strength and was wary not to get too close to those spiky quills. The porcupine tried to evade its oppressor by hiding its vulnerable side in a hollow, and it kinda did the trick against a very persistent foe. 5. King cobra dominates python. Tangled up with its head pinned between the cobra's mouth, this python is having a very bad day in the office. The pair remained there for hours in what resembles very badly tangled up braids. After some long, painful hours or minutes, for the python of course, it somehow literally got itself off the hook. Although the python made it out alive, it won't be challenging a king cobra anytime soon. Number 4. Reticulated python vs. king cobra hunted. Although the reticulated python is the longest snake in the world, their young are on a daily basis by some of the worst predators in the wild. And this king cobra is the worst snake eater around. And it's not every day you see any animal take on a python. Curling itself around the cobra might have slowed down the inevitable, but for how long? I wouldn't want to stick around to find out. 3. Cat vs. python. Domestic cats don't stand a chance against a full-grown python, but if the cat is as swift and brave as their mother cat, maybe, just maybe, it can ward off its attacker. The cat quickly administered some hard swipes on the python's face that the python could only strike the air. Did you see how fast and painful those swipes looked? Number 2. A troop of baboons saves a comrade. Somehow this python got one of the baboons and was about to devour it. Luckily, the rest of the troop didn't sit back and just watch a comrade die. They gathered in their masses to take on the slithery aggressor. After some shouting and chanting, the leader of the group makes a very daring move by pulling the python by the tail and freeing the captured baboon. The troop then chased the python back, away from their territory. Number 1. Bobcat vs. python. If there's something you must have observed about pythons in this video, it would be that they are very persistent predators. These guys don't know when to back down. Here we have a bobcat that started hissing and meowing as soon as it was aware of the python's presence. As expected, the python didn't desist from coming toward the bobcat, but it was ready for anything the python could throw at it, countering every move it made. Good to see the cat win. Way to go, bobcat. Alright, which of these encounters did you find most interesting? Let us know in the comments section below. Subscribe to Forever Green and click on the notification bell for more exciting content. And hey, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. See you around.